Hey everyone, welcome to the tutorial for Persona 5 Royal. This is here Mystic, currently, at the time of this recording, the world record holder. Uh, I'm also the only one that has notes out right now, so this video is specifically to help out anyone who needs visual aid whenever they look at my notes, because there is a lot of things in my notes that doesn't quite help so much without some visual aid. Now, at the beginning, you definitely want to go into config, make sure you have maintaining fast forward, auto advance, and persona memory off. Persona memory off is objectively better than persona memory on, because there is way less menuing involved when you have it off. After that, you go into new game, and we go ahead and get started. I'm go ahead and lower down the game some. So I think this is simple enough. When you first start off, just go through as fast as possible. You want to rush this first fight. You will always crit on the first attack that you do, as long as it's physical, of course. So we make use of that. Just rush first and then Brave Blade, and then fight's over. There won't be much to talk about in this intro. The intro is pretty much less than 8 minutes. So during the time, I will talk about this series in general. I plan on making these 30-minute vids each. There may be an exception along the way, just due to the nature of the downtime, so there wouldn't be much to talk about there. I might just put that in one whole hour. And what I also plan on doing is separating each segment to like the downtime phase and then the actual palace itself. And all that should round up to about roughly 30 to 40 minutes each. For this fight, you just want to guard. Whatever Joker does doesn't mean anything. So we be done with the intro here. Now, talking about categories, this is for hard mode, which is the hardest difficulty. It is harder than Merciless. New game. Sorry, hard mode, new game, no DLC, because I had to specify that now, and true ending. That means the game starts from when you select a new game, and it ends on when you save your clear save file at the very end, the true ending. That means we played the third semester. That means the final boss is Maruki. And one stipulation towards that is that you need to get rank 10 Akechi to add like the first 4 seconds to the final cutscene where it features him. So all that needs to be routed in, and this is the route for it. This route is, of course, not optimal. I'm already using a different route that's more optimized, but this is good for beginners, I feel. So for this part, you just want to optimize your movement. The first hour. So it's basically like this. It's just optimizing your movement as best as possible. Like when you were leaving the train, you want to go up the stairs and not the escalator, because the escalator puts you in an animation where you're just waiting for the escalator to go up, and that adds a few, like a couple seconds of extra downtime that you don't need. So that's why you want to go up the stairs. So of course the intro is pretty cutscene heavy, but there are still some optimizations you can do even in here. For instance, you don't want to touch the box first. You want to touch that last, because the box, when you examine the box, it puts you on the other side, which means you actually have to walk back over to the trash on the right side. So again, a little bit of optimization there. You don't have to do that. In fact, I haven't done it for the longest time until I got really serious about this game. So if it happens to you, just don't worry about it. Don't reset over. It's not worth it. As far as DLC is concerned, because now we have the box to worry about. When it comes to DLC, you cannot use anything that would be tagged as DLC at all. So if you touch the box at all, and you get all those items, that is basically invalidating your run. So never ever touch the box. Any DLC persona, if you have no way of actually getting rid of the DLC on your game, like if you have a physical copy and don't have a digital copy, then there is a workaround while doing your run, and that you just don't use any DLC personas. That does mess up this route and many other routes actually, towards late game. So you would have to figure out a way how to get around that. I do know that there's one person who has DLC personas, like all of them, on his game, and he has no way to get rid of it. So he did make a different route. So if anyone has any questions regarding that, feel free to comment, and I'll see if I can get his route and then post it on here. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple. This is just the very beginning after all. So far there isn't too much to talk about. In terms of saving, I would say for your first run, I would save often. But truthfully, you don't really need to save at all unless you're unless right before you're doing a fusion. Like, it's very standard for S&T games in general to save before you fuse, because fusion accidents can really screw you over. So coming up is probably like the most annoying part for most new runners, and that's navigating the station. For this one in particular, the best thing to do is just get visual aid. A lot of people, including myself, have gotten lost during this part. For the train, make sure you wait for the train doors to open first before you examine the train. The reason for that is because, like with the escalator, if you examine the train while it's closed, there is an extra animation where the train literally respawns, and and acts as if it just arrived, and so you add like an extra 5-6 seconds of waiting for the train before the doors open. If you wait until the train doors are already open, you just walk in. And it's actually the same deal here as well with that train, with the yellow train. The only difference is that the doors are already open, so you actually have to go to it as fast as possible. Because if you're too slow, the doors will close, and then you would have to sit through the animation of it coming back. So we're getting pretty close to the point where we're about to see our first fight, which is Joker's Awakening. That one is pretty simple, but I will go through some things that um, a lot of beginners should know uh, before they proceed forward. Because um, ever since I made my notes public, I have seen some mistakes from uh, other people who have recorded their runs or streamed their runs. That I feel like, yeah, I should probably go over these, but I don't think they're they're good to put on notes that Brett off just talking about here. And these aren't like routing mistakes; these are more like mechanical mistakes that uh, that can be easily fixed. So I'd rather talk about it here. So for this part specifically, make sure you talk to Ryuji first because he does count as an interactable. Um, if you talk to him before, or you talk to him after you interact with anything else, um, it actually doesn't count for him. So you actually want to talk to him first, and then examine the barrel, and then examine the chains on the left wall. That is the fastest way to get to the next scene. So for this fight, I specifically want to go into the rush mechanic. Um, the rushing animations only work if it's before the animations have already started. That means if you rush while you've already casted Ace of Horror skill, it does not speed up anything. If you rush while an enemy has already started their move, it doesn't do anything. Uh, if you honestly, if you even rush during some certain bosses, they don't work at all. So what matters a lot is that uh, you select the rush button before the animation starts, and if you're trying to rush during like a Ma Tarakaj or something like that, that doesn't work at all. You're just wasting inputs. So that tutorial that I just encountered, you can skip that, but it's really, really hard to do so. It's kind of finicky, but basically you want to hug the left side as much as possible, and then mash X, and then try to make your jump. But like I said, it's really hard to do. Uh, if you don't get it, don't worry about it. Like I didn't get it there, and I didn't reset over it. It probably saves like 1.5 seconds. Not really a big deal. So we're about to reach our next fight. Um, this one's kind of interesting, honestly, for this early on. So I added up an extra screen on the top left. Let me try this out, because I know I'm going to get this question. So the question would be that, why would you want to IHOP the Incubus and not the Pyrojack? Because Morgana also targets the Pyrojack, so why not just kill him? Well, the thing is that you actually can't kill him at all, as you can see on screen right now. Even if you IHA the Pyrojack first, the game is scripted so that it will always live with 1 HP. And so you're just leaving 2 enemies alive, and you're just end up wasting a lot more seconds. So make sure you always IHA the Incubus, and basically don't do anything with the Pyrojack unless Morgana fails to kill it. So next fight coming up, this kind of teaches you about the about how rush actually really works. So the thing about the way how a rush works is that it always rushes the target that you last targeted. So that's why you always IHOP the right pixie first, and then the left pixie, because the game is scripted so that the right pixie, I'm sorry, that the left pixie gets up first. So that's why you IHOP the right pixie first, and then the left one. That way your rush will attack the left one first, because the left pixie goes before Morgana goes. So you kill that first, and then you kill the right pixie. So we had our 5 minutes of combat. We're back in cutscene hill, more or less. So another thing I should talk about, since it's early on, is basically prepping for your run. Of course, you always want to have a good night's sleep before doing a run. It's really tough to do this whole game with just like 4 hours of sleep. I know from experience. So make sure you get a good night's sleep first, and then, in my opinion, don't eat anything heavy doing your run, because for me, anyways, it makes me sleepy. So I just don't bother with eating anything heavy. So I stick with stuff like crackers, fruits, and like a bottle or two of either water or tea. No sodas. I'm not really a big fan of sodas. Now, of course, everyone is different. They might want to have like some Starbucks, or they might want to have some Snickers or something like that. But the bottom line is that make sure you have some sort of snack that can last you for a good majority of the run. You want to have like roughly, I say you want to last for like around 11 hours with snacks and a drink, because this run is about 15 hours and 30 minutes. But for a lot of first time runners, you should expect to be around 17 hours. because there's a lot of ways you can make mistakes in this game. So kind of coming up next is gonna be your first question uh, within school. So questions are kind of awkward in this game. Usually for most Persona games, you either answer all of them or answer none of them, or just mash X and don't care about it. Since there's extra animation for questions, we want to be really particular with what we answer, or rather, it works just differently in general. Like it was like straight up like you don't answer any questions in the vanilla version, but in Royal, since we are forced to get rank 4 knowledge to get Akechi to rank 10, we have ways to take advantage of that now. Plus, it is less costly to answer a question correctly, because now we can speed through the animation, so it's less time loss. So basically, my general rule of thumb is that you always get questions right until you hit rank 4 knowledge, and then you start getting those questions wrong. As far as exams are concerned, you want to answer all questions correctly for your first exam. The next two don't matter. And then for a specific strategy, you want to ace the finals, which means you will be getting rank 5 knowledge in my route. So this one is very particular, and I had a lot of people complain about this. So I'm gonna be very particular about this one. That's shadow dodging. So I'm gonna let this play out first, and then you see how that works. Now I'm going to back up, just so I can see it again, just so you can see it again and see how exactly this works. So imagine like you're that one annoying kid that taps another person on like their right shoulder to make them turn, and then as they're turning, you just like stay behind them, like directly behind their back, and then they're just confused as like what's going on. That's basically what you're doing here. So you want the child to notice that something is up, and you're on the right side here. Now it turns, and as they're turning, you move to the other side, and then you just walk forward. And I'll just show that one more time in slow motion, just so you can actually see how it works. So he notices, he turns, you go to the other side, and you just proceed forward. And that is the very bare basics of shadow dodging. There are other ways that you can dodge shadows that it doesn't have to be specifically that. Um, Shadows all have like a narrow line of sight, and it gets more narrow the lower your security is. But with the introduction of stealth dash that we get from Ryuji rank 4, uh, there's going to be a lot more applications that we can use involving that. So this shadow is pretty particular. When I was recording this was pretty lucky of me. I didn't have to deal with the hardest dodge here. The hardest dodge is when the shadow is staring right at the door. You can still reach the doorknob before the shadow attacks you, but for beginners, I really wouldn't recommend this. I would suggest just waiting. So if you see a shadow staring at that shadow staring at the door, make sure that you just wait if you're a beginner. Because you only have like, I want to say like maybe like 5 frames before it just whacks you on the head and puts you in battle. And remember, during this point, you do not have access to your gun. So you have way less options on how to get out of the fight. It's basically an automatic reset in my opinion. So this is the refight where Morgana says, hey, we got our ammo back. You actually don't need to use your gun for this fight. Just summon your persona and use cleave. You can also use Iha, but I prefer cleave just in case you crit, which means that you can skip Morgana's attack. Alright, so we're getting pretty close to Ryuji's awakening. That fight is kind of particular. So there are 2 ways to go about that fight. Just for some groundwork, there is an Eligor and 2 bicorns. The 2 bicorns can be zeroed down, and they can be killed. Now the problem with that though is that it is a fair bit amount slower, like about 15 seconds slower, than just focusing down on the Eligor. Now the problem is that by leaving all 3 enemies alive, because you need 2 rounds to kill the Eligor, you have a fairly low chance, but it's still a chance, that Joker will take 2 hits and then he will die. What you do is up to you, but I suggest just focusing down on Eligor because it's so early into the run that you can just reset if you die. And that's if you even care. It's only about 30 seconds lost if you die and you have to do the fight again. I personally say that unless you're going for a world record, it is not worth resetting over. And even if you are going for a world record, the game isn't optimized enough to go for something like that. So we're about to see the fight in action. It's going to look really simple because I don't die for this fight. But you'll see how close it can get. So all three those are attacks, then make sure you have the rush animation on because you can rush through these. And as you see there, the bicorn hit Joker kind of hard, just a little bit. And if the yellow core decided to attack Joker as well, then you would have to hope that Joker dodged, otherwise he would have died. I would say that's the first scary fight of the run, but again, it's only about 30 seconds lost if you have to redo the fight. It's not a big deal. This game, like the world record for this game is currently 15 hours and 24 minutes. That is a lot of time. And 30 seconds is a drop in the bucket. So don't worry about it. I'll also say the same thing in regards to your name as well. I know a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, prefer using one letter for your first and last name. I say that really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, honestly. Pick whatever name you want. Pick a funny name. Pick a fast name you want to. It really doesn't matter. So we're getting towards the end of the video here. So I'll leave it at this. If you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord. The link will be below. I do stream quite a bit on Twitch. I stream in the mornings. I'll say maybe about two or three times a week. And in regards to my notes, there will also be posted in the description below as well. And of course, if you have any questions, I think I said this already, but if you have any questions, I gotta stress this. Leave a comment or join Discord. I am always happy to answer any questions. Alright, we're just about hitting the end of this video. I will go ahead and sign off for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in part 2.